Dracarys. This is Jade, and I am back to recap the newest episode of Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 4, Dracarys. And by the end of this, you will understand why it was named Dracarys. But first of all, let's get through the preliminaries. If you're new here and you like my content, consider subscribing, liking, sharing, and hit the bell icon to get the notifications of when I post. I try to post every Monday and Wednesday. And every now and again, I may have an extra post or two through the week, but Mondays and Wednesdays is usually my schedule. So I've already written my post up on my website, Lilac Dream. That will be linked below if anybody's interested. So I have it here for my notes. So let's jump right into my favorite moments of this episode. Number one, we start off with the funeral pyre. The long night is over, and it's time to have a send-off for some of our favorite characters and people we've grown fond of and not so fond of over the season. So you have like Theon Greyjoy, Lyanna Mormont, the Dothraki army, pretty much the whole Dothraki army, so Jorah Mormont, etc. And Jon kind of gives a little bit of a speech saying, you know, these people were brave and they're heroes and they did not die in vain. They died fighting for the living, and that it is their duty and responsibility to carry these people forth in memory and make sure that they live on through them and through their children and their children's children. So love that part of the episode. It was a nice send-off for some of those characters. Next, you had the whole victory celebration, and to me there was a lot of small moments within this kind of big moment that happened that was significant. Number one, let's see. Dany declares Gendry basically she unbastardizes him and tells him he is a Baratheon and that he can be the Lord of Storm's End from now on. So that was kind of a cool moment. I like Gendry. I think he's a good character. I wish we had been able to see more of him throughout the seasons. So yeah, I think that was cool, and you know, they kind of did, oh hey, to Gendry, Baratheon, yada yada yada. So Gendry is now the Lord of Storm's End, of course, being that both Stannis and Robert Baratheon and Renly Baratheon have passed on. Although I will say this for Game of Thrones, I'm one of those people that if I don't see a body, I'm not 100% sure that they're gone. And hell, with Jon, we know that even if there is a body, they may not 100% be gone. I never saw Stannis' actual body, so I don't know. Anyway, next, the fact that Dany witnesses how beloved Jon is with his people in the north, with the wildlings. I mean, he is known throughout Westeros, pretty much. I mean, his reputation, he's very, very, very much like his father. Yes, by now we know that Ned Stark is not his birth father. However, Ned Stark raised him. Ned Stark is in him. Ned Stark's blood flows through his veins. And he is just like him when it comes to the whole honor thing. Like, I mean, he's Ned to a T. So, Dany realizes that people really, really love Jon, and if they were to find out the truth of his lineage, that they may prefer him over her. So, and you can see that in her eyes, and she gets up and kind of walks out from the celebration because she can't handle that. She's not here for it. Sansa and the Hound, I kind of really love this scene because they had such a tense, contentious type of relationship in the very beginning. Of course, we all know why. At least by now, I hope we know why. And Sansa was just so very flighty and dizzy and everything, and she was really frightened of the Hound in the beginning, but she's been through so much that I think there's very little that frightens Sansa now. So her little talk with the Hound was cool, and to finally reconcile themselves with each other and have an understanding of who each other who both of them are now, because they've both grown from the people that they started out being, which was cool to see. I loved it. So love that little moment. Gendry. Lord, poor child. Okay, here we go. Once Gendry is proclaimed the Lord of Storms, and he goes looking for Arya, and basically when he finds her, proposes to her and asks her to be his lady. And yeah, no, Arya just defeated the Night King. Like, she ain't trying to be nobody lady. Like, Arya has been telling us who she is from the very beginning. Season 1, when my girl picked up that arrow, that bow and arrow, and zipped it right into that bullseye from the beginning, we have known who Arya is. And even it was her answer was a throwback to season 1, when her dad at some point is discussing with her that one day he'll find some nice lord for her to marry, and she can be in the castle and yada yada yada. And Arya tells him, no, I'm not a lady, that's not me. And that's exactly what she ends up telling Gendry. And while I feel a little bad for him, because I understand that he loves her, and honestly I feel like she loves him too, or at least holds some affection for him, that is not Arya. That is not who she is. That is not who she trained to be. That's not even who she was before she began training. Arya was never into the whole lady fantasy bullshit. Like, that's just not Arya. So I kind of felt bad she had to break his heart, but hey, I feel like she would be cool with a, I can come and go as I please type of situation. So maybe Gendry suggests like a friends with benefits type of situation. I don't know. Anyway, love that, because, while I appreciate Gendry proclaiming his love for Arya, because that's his truth, I also really appreciate Arya wanting to be who she is and sticking to being who she is, and not trying to change herself because some dude is in love with her. So here for it. Here for all of it. The cards are on the table. So Dany and Jon, after kind of the celebration, have this discussion in her chambers, and she wants him to basically conceal the truth, because she's seen the way the people love Jon. So she wants him to conceal the truth so they can be together and coexist, and everything can be all gravy and stuff. But Jon is like, look here, like, I at least owe it to my family to tell them the truth. And Dany is not here for it. And he was like, I can tell them and everything will still be fine. It'll work out. Yada, yada, yada. And Dany's like, yeah, it'll work out if you do it my way. So Dany is basically like, my way or the highway. Like, I'm not here for it. I'm not trying to be with you if you do it any other way than the way I want it to be done. So yeah, Jon was left a little disappointed, but I get where she's coming from, but yeah, come on now. The secret, like, no, we're not holding on to this. Everybody needs to know, because this is the secret of like the 2 decades or something going on. No. So nice try, Dany. Nice try. Anywho, so next, there's this short scene, and I don't want to get into that but it leads to this one. But there's a short scene where they're drawing up battle plans, and they're trying to tell Dany that maybe you need to let your people rest, and da da da. Dany's not trying to hear it. Anyway, but Jon is like taking up for her, for Dany. It's like, oh no, we promise, so we're gonna send our army and yada yada yada. So Arya and Sansa's like, okay, we need a word. So the Stark family meet in the Godswood, appropriate, to discuss what's going on. And Arya's like, well, I understand why you did what you did in the first place, as far as bending the knee to Dany, because we needed her Dracarys to defeat the Night King and his army. We're a family, And what we're not going to do is just be throwing our people out there, and that, you may be cool with Danny, but that doesn't mean that we trust her. So, it comes up somehow. It comes up about them being Starks and da-da-da. And John just kind of, gets this look on his face, because we all know John's truth by now. And he looks to Bran, and Bran is like, it's up to you. So John reveals to Arya, Sansa, his true parentage, that he is indeed the son of Lyanna Stark and Rhaegar Targaryen. So, by now he would be considered a Targaryen and not a Stark, even though his mother is a Stark. So anyway, and immediately after he swears Sansa and Arya to secrecy, like they can't tell anybody. So immediately afterwards, Sansa is having a chat with Tyrion, where she susses out that he is actually kind of a little frightened of his queen, Dany, or whatever, and basically reveals to him Jon's truth. I'm like, really, Sansa? Like, your daddy been holding on to this secret for how long? And in a matter of an hour, you go and tell somebody? Like, come on now. Let's do a little better. Okay? So anyway, and of course, Tyrion ends up passing the information on to Varys. They have a whole discussion about it. Yada, yada, yada. Now, after this, let's see where I'm at. Because I'm going to have there's other moments I want to discuss, but I'm going to do it as kind of like honorable mentions at the end. Anyway, so we know the truth now, or his family knows the truth. And that was the thing Ari was saying. I don't think of you as like my bastard brother or my half brother. You're my brother. Like, that's it. And all of them were like that. And so that's why he ended up revealing the truth to them. But, I mean, you're their brother. Come on. That's not changing because your name changed. But anywho, Jaime and Brienne. Oh, y'all, this was a long time coming. I feel like they've been in love with each other since their whole thing with the when they got captured by the Brotherhood, and Brienne was basically telling him, like, you're not defined by your knighthood or your sword hand, and basically telling Jaime, get your shit together, stop pitying yourself and wallowing in self-pitying, yada yada yada. My bad, y'all. The phone was ringing. So anyway, yeah, she was. Where was I at? See, I done got myself all mixed up. Oh yeah. She, Brienne was telling him, stop pitying yourself and all that kind of jazz or whatever. And so basically she was like, tighten up. We kind of in the middle of some foolishness right now. And we ain't got time for your self-pity shenanigans. And then there was that whole deal with them at King's Landing where Jaime sent her off with one of the Valyrian steel swords that ice was made out of. And did you guys see them fighting together in the long night? That was like the reunion of ice. Anyway. So, and she named it Oathkeeper, and she goes to, find Catelyn's daughters or whatever. So, in season 6, now, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I'm going to mention it again. This was the moment to me that solidified that, that there was some love between the two. Brienne goes to River Run. There's a siege. Jaime is there because the Blackfish has taken back over River Run. And the Freys are trying to get it back, and they are failing miserably at it. So Cersei sends Jaime to the Riverlands to go take the castle back. Okay? So he's there. Brienne comes because she needs to treat with the Blackfish for Sansa to help with the Battle of the Bastards and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, what's the girl's name? Brienne talks to Jaime. They have a discussion or whatever. And she's like, I kept my promise. I did what I was supposed to do. And she tries to give Oathkeeper. That's the name of her sword, Oathkeeper. She tries to give Oathkeeper back to Jaime. And Jaime replies, it belongs to you. It's always belonged to you. And for me, I felt like he was talking about more than that sword. So I was like, oh yes, I'm here for it. So anyway, they end up hooking up. Finally, I'm like, yes, been waiting on this, because I feel like their love is more of a pure type of love than his whatever the hell he had going on with his sister. Like that, like his sister to me didn't love anybody except her children, and I'm starting to question that now. Anyway, so yeah, and then at the end, I guess he hears the news about what happened to Rhaegal and Dany's army and all that kind of stuff, and he leaves. Like, he starts packing his stuff up to go, and Brienne is like, you don't have to be like her. She's like, you're not like your sister, you're a good person, blah 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 blah. And Jaime starts recounting all the horrible things that he's done throughout this series or whatever. And he's like, I have to go, basically. So he rides off back towards King's Landing and his sister. But for me, I feel like this was necessary because Jaime has unfinished business with his sister, and that needs to be taken care of. But the books and the series have diverged from each other so much that I really don't know where they're going with this, or anything at the moment. Like, it's so up in the air. Like, everything is a surprise for me, especially since the last book that we got was A Dance with Dragons, and it ends with Jon's death. So anything beyond that, all this stuff is like kind of new to me. Anyway, on their way to King's Landing, they get close to King's Landing, and out of nowhere, this bolt comes and shoots Rhaegal in the chest, and then through the throat, and the poor thing he dies, y'all. And I am heartbroken because I was not expecting that. Okay, like, you already broke my heart when you killed Viserion and turned him into the undead dragon, and now you're telling me we got another whole dead dragon. Like, what is going on? Like, that's the one thing I think throughout the series I did not expect, was for dragons to be dying off the way that they have. So this just I was like, are we serious right now? Like, what is going on? So Rhaegal passes, and then basically Euron and his Iron Fleet, they have all these big boats, and they just decimate Dany's fleet on the water. And so all of the Unsullied, whoever Dany's army is with her on the sea, they basically have to swim to shore, and that's when they find out that Missandei is missing. And so, yeah, Cersei has captured Missandei. Okay. End scene, guys. Dany basically sends Tyrion to negotiate with Cersei and make her surrender and yada yada yada. So him and Qyburn have a conversation which gets nowhere, and then he approaches his sister directly, which also gets him nowhere. She has Missandei captive, and Missandei pretty much at this moment knows it's over for her. And this, oh my god, I was so angry. Because I'm like, of course, one of the only two characters who are making future plans before the long night is the one to be captured. And Cersei ends up asking her, do you have any last words? Because she intends on killing her right then and there. And Missandei looks towards Dany, looks towards Grey Worm, and says Dracarys. Now, we all know what Dracarys means. That is the High Valyrian word for fire, that Dany uses for her dragons to come and rain fire down. And I promise you, in this moment, the way they filmed it, I was expecting Drogon to rise up from the back and just whoosh. Yeah, none of that happened. Just killed all my little dreams. But when I rewatched it, I realized that she was sending a message to Dany and Grey Worm, telling them, because during this whole time, Tyrion is trying to keep it to the point where, they can take over King's Landing with very minimal casualties. To me, Missandei's message cards is for Dany and Grey Worm to do like that, light it on fire and show no mercy to any. Forget the casualties, forget what Tyrion's trying to do and save people. Just do what you gotta do and conquer this crazy queen. And I feel like that was the message, which I appreciate that Missing Die, but I do not appreciate you dying. I was not here for it at all, okay? So that is the end scene of this Game of Thrones episode. Now I do want to get into my honorable mentions really quick, which were kind of like all the goodbye scenes. We got Tormund and Jon Snow. Tormund is going to go back up to what he considers the north, because he doesn't consider Jon's north the north. He considers it the south. So anything back beyond the wall, that's north to him. So he wants to take his people back up north. And so Jon says goodbye to him and asks him to take Ghost with him. And the way he treats this made me angry. And I kind of got a little bit of understanding when I watched it back the second time. Because he didn't say, he didn't even go over and pet Ghost. He didn't say, good boy, thank you for your years of loyalty. And like none of that. He was just like, can you take Ghost with you? Back north, that's where he belongs. And then he just looks at him and keeps it moving. And I'm like, really, Jon? Like, after all of, y'all don't even understand. I was like, that is heartbreaking. And Ghost was like me, the fuck, like, what's going on? Anywho, I was upset with that. But when I watched it over again, I feel like, okay, this is what I feel like. I feel like that Jon, now knowing the truth of who he is, doesn't feel like he's quite worthy of Ghost anymore. Like he's not deserving of his love and his loyalty, because he's not a Stark, or he can't really be considered a Stark anymore since he is a Targaryen. And I feel like maybe that's kind of hitting him all at once, and he doesn't know how to deal with that in regards to Ghost. This wolf that has been his companion for so many years, under the thought that he was the son of a Stark when he really is not. And so I feel like maybe that's why he treated Ghost kind of like how, remember when he had the truth of who he was and he hadn't told Dany yet, and he was kind of treating her really cold, like ignoring her and walking away from her because he had this truth. I feel like that's kind of the same thing that's going on with Ghost. Like, he doesn't feel worthy. He doesn't feel deserving of having had such a loyal companion for so long, and he doesn't know how to deal with that. So, anyway, that's how I choose to think of it, so I'm not so angry. Also love the cute little scene. Cute. It's not really cute, but the scene between Clegane and Arya, and they both have taken off and are headed to King's Landing because they also have unfinished business. You all know that Cersei is at the top of Arya's list. She's always been at the top of Arya's list. So they kind of head off together to King's Landing, and I just kind of love their little weird oddball ass relationship. Oh, sorry guys, I'm on my iPad, so if I knock it, my bad. But it's just so much easier just to film on this thing than digging a tripod out and whatnot. So let's see. Oh, also he says goodbye to Sam. We find out that Gilly is pregnant with a second child, which of course is Sam's, and they're just like, I appreciate you, I love you, you're my best friend, da da da. So yeah, I did want to mention that. So the goodbyes were heartbreaking. Like, I was just like, ugh. It was so much heartbreak in this episode, but I feel like, I guess, to move the story forward, a lot of it was necessary. That makes sense. Anywho, I think that is pretty much it for this recap, guys. If you have any comments or questions, definitely leave those below. Tell me, please, what did you think of this episode? How did you feel about the deaths? How did you feel about the goodbyes? How did you feel about the truth being told? Like, let me know, guys. I'm very, very curious to see what happens next episode. Euron looks like he sees something on the horizon, very surprising to him. So I wonder if the actual Azor Ahai prophecy will actually make it into the series and come to fruition. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. And it just, I know that there's some part where he says, I think Azor Ahai raises. I don't want to spoil nothing. You know what? I'm not even gonna say it. But if you're curious, look up Azor Ahai. Okay. So that's it for this video. Again, comments, questions, leave below, and I will get back to you as soon as possible, guys. So good. Okay, I'll catch you in the next recap. Talk to you later.